is called para. Now, this is very interesting because this is para, meaning once I have this knowledge, nothing there is more to know and nothing there is more to do. Which means what? All my pursuits up till now had been to ward off fear and sorrow in my life. Every single thing that one does, including the upkeep of the body. Like before knowledge, the upkeep of the body is spanning, a lot of specialists, right? From the podiatrist to the neurologist, the head fellow, everybody is waiting in line. And each person you go to with a foot problem, from head to toe, there are specialists. Head problem, there are several specialists because that seems to be at the head of the all issues. And then for foot problem, the head fellow will not touch the foot, and the foot fellow will not touch the head. And if you go to the yoga fellow will say all your problems are because the head cannot touch the feet. There is a big Madhya Pradesh, middle portion is coming in the way of the head touching the feet. So that is the problem. At least the yoga fellow is trying to connect the two. That's why it's called yoga, that which connects, But here the head, and then everything else, everyone goes to this head fellow. Some people also go to the foot fellow, and then if there is an ankle problem, the foot fellow says go to the ankleologist, don't come to me. Correct? So the upkeep of the body, all these fellows are waiting, with so many degrees, all the alphabets are behind their names, from A to Z. It is all behind their names, A full stop, Z full stop, E. I don't know what that means, but some vague degree, diploma from some foreign university, And this one is specialist in that and everything. And then, in fact, there are more initials after their name than in their name. So, that is the specialty. And what for these specialists are waiting? For this fellow who has problems every day with the body, correct? Yeah. So and why do they have problem with the body? Because that is how the nature of the body is. If you have a body, then you need some body to take care of this body. That is how it is. But then if you don't know this, what happens? The body problems translate into sorrow and fear. They don't remain localized. Our problem is that we don't know how to localize issues. And if you don't know how to localize, you go loco. That's what happens. Yeah, you have to learn how to contain the problem. Okay, body hurts. Yeah, that's its job, especially as it gets older. In fact, you have to take it to the doctor if it doesn't hurt. Like, what's the problem? I'm not having a problem, This should be the attitude, because really speaking, body means there will be aches and pain and discomfort, because where else will the discomfort come? Tell me. It has a place to go, and discomfort has a place in life because it is karmic, and and then also it is the nature of the degenerative process of that which is born to degenerate. Yeah. First body is born to generate other bodies, and then it degenerates. This is what that is its swarupa, that is its nature. Swabhavasya na nivrittihi. You don't have freedom from your nature. If it is going to, if it's going to degenerate, it is going to degenerate. It's not going to do anything other than that. So when you see the degeneration, when you observe the degeneration from the standpoint of the witness, what happens? You take it to the appropriate fellow, and then, come back, hang it on a peg, and then continue to live. Just like you hang off the coat. That's all it is. It is there, It helps you do things, what needs to be done. That's all it is. But then if this Paravidya is not there, that I am the ultimate, I am that which is beyond this body, mind, sense complex, if it is not there, then the problem of the body doesn't remain along with the body. What happens? It migrates to the mind, to the emotions, to the I sense, to the I notion. And when the problem of the body is internalized by the I sense, and if the I sense happens to be limited, confined because of self-ignorance only to the body, mind, sense complex, then that, because of the degeneration in the body, the panic ensues and sorrow ensues. Now, you don't need much to be sad, Just look at some 10-year-old photographs. That's enough. Oh, not a single wrinkle, not a single spot, not a single, sadness here. Look how it is. So many wrinkles, so many marks. Oh, look at how nice and plump the cheeks were. Now there are hollow bones, staring. And that's one good thing about digital photography, is that it has eliminated the need for photo albums. Certain things you don't even remember. Now the current day children, if you tell them photo album, they say, who? What? They don't know. Everything is instant. And then you take so many photographs that you ensure that you will never have time to ever look at them, which is good. Which is wonderful, because this problem is not there. But it is there in other ways, because there's always reminders, even the food that you have, that you encounter. Oh, before I could digest this. Now even if I look at it, I feel nauseous. So all these sadnesses are there. And why these sources of sadness is connected to the body are there? Because this Paravidya is not there. That is why this Prithakkaranam, this separation is important. Because we are not talking of the words of the Upanishad. We are not talking of the heap of words called the Rigveda, Yajurveda, etc. What are we talking about? That body of knowledge which is describing not Sadhya Vastu but Siddha Vastu. And he is going to say this later in the Bhashya. Sadhya Vastu means that which is to be attained. Siddha Vastu, that which is already attained. Yeah. So it is not describing, this is not the knowledge of something to be attained. Because if anything that is attained in time is lost in time, please understand. And if you don't, like even this body, and if you don't understand this, if you're not able to witness the body, mind, sense complex, and if you're not able to witness that everything has a degenerative process, everything keeps on degenerating, keeps on degenerating, keeps on degenerating. The mind, you feel like saying, never mind, Yeah. Senses are senseless, and the mind is never mind. The body is, very shoddy. And so therefore what? Therefore, this is not where I have to piggy bank. This is not my asset. This is not what is tried to, you save it so that, it becomes a vehicle for the knowledge. You save it at the last minute, you give it a hand and you bring it out of the quicksand. That's all. You save it, you keep it going. But you don't expect miracles from the body. Yeah, even though there is so many things nowadays, they are advertising. All these spam emails you get. Miracle body, miracle mind. The only miracle is that such businesses are still in business. That is the miracle. That's the only miracle. And that they make money. And that they are able to make you cough up the money. That is the second miracle perhaps. There is no miracle. Because that whose nature is to degenerate will continue to degenerate. You can put some stop on it. You can extend the life, but even the elastic you can only stretch for so long, correct? Yeah. And then when you let go, that's all is going to happen. You can hold it for some time, you can keep it going. But really speaking, the sorrow and the fear which are centered on the body are basically avidya. It's the manifestation of avidya. What is avidya? Ignorance connected to I. So that is the thing. And so this avidya has to be converted to vidya, to the knowledge that all this, that is really what I am trying to save. I am slaving over something that cannot be saved. And so and then in keeping with my desire to be immortal, in keeping with my desire for that forever, for that elusive forever, this body of knowledge called Para helps me to see that what I seek and what I want to be, I already am. It's just a question of replacing the I. Placing the I. Replacing the I, relocating the I. The I has to move, this time without bag and baggage. Yeah. When you move, you carry a lot of boxes, you box everything up. Here, the I is boxed out of its house, which is the body, which it thinks is the body, is boxed out of the home, which it thinks is the mind, is boxed out of the notion that I am just this little body, mind, sense complex and I'm going to hold on to it, till not even, I can't even say till I die, because the I never dies, till I keep getting other bodies. I'm going to hold on to this body till I have another body to hold on to. And so the knowledge pries off the grip, from this which has considered that it is living in the wrong address. That's all. The problem is the I has to move. It is a vagrant that has occupied something that doesn't belong to it. That's all it is. It's a squatter. This I is a sad little squatter thinking it doesn't have a place. It is living in a ramshackle apartment, already condemned. Called the body, mind, sense complex. The I has moved into it and it is so afraid. First it is afraid of the fallen roof. Don't notice I didn't say falling. The roof has already caved in. It has patched up some tarp and some bricks and everything. And out of the bricks and the mud in between the bricks, things have started to grow, and then that's why it caves in. First it's very happy, I'm having a living roof. Yeah, living roof means it collapses immediately because it's got so much earth there. If it's not done properly, it will collapse. So here in a ramshackle house with a roof, caved in roof, patched up by some tarp, etc., this fellow is living, thinking that this is my mansion. And what kind of a mansion? A patchwork quilt, that every day the person is into needlepoint, sewing something, patching something, cementing something. It is just, it's going to be, it's just doesn't, and all this energy goes to upkeeping and renovating something which doesn't even belong to this person. No wonder the person is sad. If you put so much energy into doing something that doesn't belong to you, of course you're going to be not just sad, you're going to be miserable and you're going to be afraid because there is all kinds of drafts coming from everywhere. Yeah. Rain is falling, drafts are coming, snow and heat and cold and all these things. And so the I needs some, incentive to move. Yeah, it has to move. But without taking the bag and baggage, because all the the possessions of this I are also as rotten as the apartment that it lives in. Yeah. So all the baggage has to be left right there, and the I has to be taken and then walked over to its own glory. It has to be repatriated with its own glory. So that walk over, it's as easy as this knowledge. It's a walk over. You just walk the I over. Yes, it needs some hand holding. That's why the guru comes into the picture. That's why the pramana comes into the picture. Little hand holding is there and little encouragement is there. And then astrology takes care of the rest of the encouragement, because not only the roof falls, the 4 holding posts also collapse on this Jiva's head. And this is called Shani Dasha. And then the Maha period of Saturn, 18 years of relentless, 20 years I think, of relentless, all kinds of horrible things happening to the non-housed, to the non-house, which I consider to be the real house. Yeah. This is just a temporary thing. This is not where I really live. This is just at best a housing, a casing, a casing, which is cast off after death of this body. But really speaking, it should be cast off now itself. That's the whole idea. Should be cognitively cast off. And the cognitive casting is called Para Vidya. That by which that cognitive casting off happens. When I learn to live in myself, as myself, regardless of the shoddy nature of this body. This is what is that. That is this para knowledge. It cannot be written out. In fact, the words which are used to paint this para knowledge are apara, correct? Mm-hmm. Because when you write it out, what is this? Because this is a knowledge that happens in the mind, not by the mind. And what is this knowledge? It's the relocation of the I. So even if you make a diagram, 2 diagrams, the shoddy body I and the non-shoddy glorious I, and then you have little arrows that show. You cannot do this via GPS. GPS is useless. Even if you make a map of this I, you remap the I, you map the relocation of the I. It's not going to show it. Why? Because the process is really a non-process. The I already at home in itself. The I already, expansive, expanded beyond the body, mind, sense complex. The I that already partially knows its home. And the I that already fully yearns to be home is told, Om is your home. You are at home in Om. That is you. That cause, which is the cause of the universe, which is uncaused by everything else, is alone you. Nothing else is you. This body is an incidental, ramshackle thing where you have mistakenly, you are doing patchwork thinking it is you. Put down the cement and the shovel and stop this shoveling, and above all, stop the groveling. This is what it is. This is the whole thing. You please be yourself. And so this incentive to live as oneself in one's own glory is Paravidya, that incentive. And that incentive cannot be mapped because it is Atindriya. Atindriya means that I to which I am being taken, the I notion is being taken to, is going to be described in the next mantra as Adrishyam, not an object of sight, not an object of the senses. Oh, but then I'm lost. How to go? Idiot, it's you. There is no address because it is understood. Why is it understood? It is self-revealing. Are you here?
Yes.
Yes? That is all that you need to know. Oh, but what does I am here have to do with that? Well, if you said I'm not here, that means what? You are here. Are you here means do you exist? Let's frame the question slightly differently. Do you exist?
Yes.
Asinava. Are you here or not? Do you exist or not? Yes? Asi. I know Asi. Asi means what? You are. Yeah. I don't know that Tat Asmi. Tad Asmi I don't know. Asmi I know. I know I am. But I am that which is the cause of the universe, upon which this whole entire universe exists. That source of existence, the sole existence, upon which everything else exists. That I don't know. So I am, I know. I am and I know is already there. Satchit, Satchit. And what I want to be? Ananta, limitlessly I am, limitlessly I know. And that I am, I know, is understood by which cognitive process is called the ultimate knowledge. Everything else is just leading up to it, non-ultimate. So, dve vidya veditavye, two kinds of knowledges must be known. What is that? Apara also needs to be known. What is apara? Everything else. All this, knowledge of how to's, to do's, to don'ts, and all these things have to be known. Mathematics, reading, writing, and they call it 3 R's because the A in the arithmetic is silent. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Yeah, there is an elision of the A, some English sandhi, and eng of padantad ati. So that A is gone, the A, arithmetic, that A is gone, that A is elided. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. So these 3 R's are there. So this is all has to be understood, because otherwise what I am saying you will not follow. What the Upanishad is trying to tell you will not follow. So this is also important. This is also a must. And the second must is a more forceful must. That you must have this knowledge of where the I is really located in its own glorious way. Mahimni tishtati. In its own mahima, it resides, it abides, it is the truth of you, and you are that which you seek to be, which is the glory of this entire universe of names and forms reside in you as you. And all names and forms, are just a temporary manifestation of that I alone. It's everything here in this universe is an extension of you. This Vidya is called Para Vidya. And this Para knowledge, that also must be known. But are the two musts the same? Only if the brain is musty, you will think the two musts are the same. The one must is for the sake of the other must. The one must is a preparation. The other must is the only must. So they have two different weightage. Please understand. And so having described the difference, we also saw the objection of the Purva Pakshi saying that these two differences, this para and apara, is anarthakyam. Anarthakyam means useless. You must not differentiate between the two. Why? Because if Rigveda, etc. are outside of the scope of the Vedas, if para vidya says Rigveda, etc. is not para, it is that which is conveyed by the Vedas which is para. So then, if para knowledge is outside of the Vedas, that makes it kupramana, means it's not useful. Because there are enough smritis that say, if it is outside of the Veda, don't waste your time studying it. Correct? Yeah, so then kudrishti, we saw this, kudrishti happens. Wrong intentions. And then if it is inside of the Veda itself, then why make the difference that it is outside of the Veda? Why say? If it is inside of the Veda, then it cannot produce moksha because it is still within apara. And then if it is outside of the Veda, then it need not be studied because it is not a correct thing to study things outside of the Veda. It cannot give you it. It loses the status of being a means of knowledge to do this, So this was the tricky objection mounted by the Purva Pakshi, by the objector, and we also saw the response that it is not a thing, it is not one more thing. This knowledge is not one more thing to be known along with so many other things. What is this knowledge? This knowledge is the thing. Other things, are not really even there to contend with. This is the knowledge which has to be known. And then what? Since the differences, there are some differences between the first Vidya, which first body of knowledge, which is to be pursued as separate from you. And so for that, there are certain things that one needs to have. And this being oneself alone, This is a different kind of pursuit. And so in answering the question, Adi Shankara says very beautifully, first he gives, we have already done this, but we are just going to read it. I am going to read it, yeah. Na Vedya Vishaya Vijnanasya Vivakshitattvat. Upanishad Vedya Aksara Vishayam hi Vijnanam Paravidya iti Pradhanyena Vivakshitam na Upanishad Shabda Rashihi. So Adi Shankara responds by saying that, look, when we say Paravidya, we are not talking of the heap of words called which comprise the Upanishad. Vivakshitam means what is desired, Vaktum Ichha, Vivaksha. What is desired to be said here is Vedya Vishaya Vijnanam. That which is to be known as the truth of oneself, that which is not an object of knowledge, which is being talked about here. So if the object of knowledge is not being talked about, who is being talked about? Subject of knowledge, the subject. And then Veda Shabdena tu Sarvatra Shabda Rashihi Vivakshitaha. But when you talk of Veda, what we are talking about is the heap of words, which is what is referred to. We are not talking of the Veda per se, we are talking of that knowledge which the words properly deployed generate. That is what it is, and that proper deployment is going to be talked about in the next sentence. Shabda Rashi Adhigame api Yatnantarena Guru Abhigamanadi Lakshana Vairagyam cha na Aksharadhigamaha Sambhavati iti Prithakkaranam Brahma Vidyayaha Paravidya iti Kathanam cheti cha iti. We have to see this sentence. So, Veda Shabdena tu Sarvatra Shabdarashihi Vivakshitaha. Everywhere when you talk of the Veda, what you mean is those big bodies of writing. First it was oral, then it was written down. So this big body of writing is what we call Veda. And then Shabda Rashi Adhigame api. Then even if you have this knowledge, even if you have this knowledge of the Veda, somebody might be a Pandit and they will have all this knowledge. Brahma Vida apnoti param tadesha bhyukta, etc., 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 etc. This one, what will they do? If you are a Pandit, what you do, Pandit means you are the one who has memorized this, and you go to Gurukula at age 8, age 12, and you memorize everything, and the Gurukula spits you out at age 24, and then what? As usual, you don't have anything other than the words. Maybe you know the meaning, yes, Brahman is everything. What happened? Nothing happened. You know the translation because you know the language. And what will you do? You will just take a Shivalinga. Imagine this to be Shivalinga, and then you say, Om Brahma Vida apnoti param. You will chant it while doing Rudra Abhisheka and Abhisheka, you will chant. Because frequently what happens? Rudram runs out because you have mounds of things to do Abhisheka with. You have all kinds of liquid to bathe Bhagavan, and you have all kinds of liquids, right? You have milk, you have yogurt, and then you have all kinds of juices, fruit purees, then you have all the holy dravyas like vibhuti, and then chandan, sandalwood powder, then you have kumkum powder, then you have turmeric powder, then you have coconut water, and in between someone comes late and brings something else, and you have that, and then and Rudram is a long chant, but then it runs out, and then other people also want to participate, so they also say, let me also put some milk, so then you have to extend the whole thing. So then when Rudram runs out and other things are all small, then you start chanting the Taittiriya Upanishad, correct? Yeah. Anybody can chant, anybody can know the meaning, and the swaras are also easily understood. You just practice with someone, Vedacharya, somebody who teaches the Veda, and then the chanting will be understood. And then what happens? Then nothing happens because the meaning of those words are not understood. So yatnantarena, vina, antara here means vina, yatnena vina, without, look at the bhashya, without yatna means without any effort, without any effort. If you know the meaning, shabdarashi, shabdarashi adhigame api, even if you know that what this heap of words mean, yatnantarena, without the other effort, another effort, and what is that other effort, we'll see, na akshara adhigamaha sambhavati, yatnantarena akshara adhigamaha na sambhavati iti prithakkaranam brahma vidyayaha para vidya iti kathanam cha iti. So yatnantarena akshara adhigamaha na sambhavati, this much we should know, that without just by memorizing the words of the Veda and perhaps knowing the grammar, you are not going to get the knowledge. So that's why it is called Apara, because you need some other kind of initiative. Yatna here is not effort, it's more of a initiative. Yeah, you need a different initiative and a different outlook to gain this knowledge, because the knowledge is not residing just in the words and the translation, but in the proper deployment of the meaning of the words, and that meaning of the words should rest, the words whose meaning is you. That is what the whole idea is. The meaning of the word should not only point to you but rest in you, repatriating you with your own glory, whereas before you were identified with this ramshackle body, mind, sense complex, grieving and in panic. So the whole move, so this is what the whole thing is. So this is just a relocation. The eye was mistakenly delivered, pun intended, to the wrong address, and then now it is being, taken back. That's all it is. Sometimes when the mail is delivered wrongly, what do? You cross out and you write the correct address because the neighbor has moved or whatever it is, or that this is not your, and you cross out and say does not live here or does not belong here, and you put it back in the mailbox. And the mail carrier comes the next day and carries this. So this is just a little, and the guru who does this is the mail carrier. Yeah. So that is what the thing is. The eye has been delivered to the wrong address, and the address happens to be this ramshackle body mind sense complex, where the eye doesn't want to move out of, because it thinks that if I move out of this, I will be exterminated. And I will be condemned. In fact, it's already living in a condemned apartment. And then it feels condemned because the apartment is condemned. Apartment dharma is my own dharma. And so the apartment is, condemned. And therefore, I am condemned. And therefore, what happens? So therefore, this is what I have to, I have to understand. And this eye has been moved, and this move is not there in the heap of words. The move doesn't reside in the heap of the words. So by the heap of the words, by listening to the Veda, by understanding the meaning, just the meaning, what happens? Nothing happens. That's why people say, I have studied the Taittiriya Upanishad. So what? Tatah kim, another meaning for tatah kim. We have a nice Gurvashtakam, very nice thing. Tatah kim means if there is no attachment to the surrender to the teacher, of what use? Tatah kim means of what use everything else is. Therefore what? So what? Tatah kim, tatah kim. And so this fellow who has just read the translation of the Upanishad. There are plenty of translations. In every airport there is a shop which sells this, do-it-yourself Upanishad, DIY. Self-help section. And they are very clever, because at the airport you are neither here nor there. And then that is the first time you realize, okay, I am actually in life also neither here nor there. So they capitalize on this momentary introspective nature the person has. Not even in these airports. In American airports, all kinds of consumerist things are there. In Indian airport, that is where everybody gets a, fly-by-night Vedantic lesson because instant Vedanta, this is how one gets. And how does one get instant Vedanta? You're just browsing in the airport. But why aren't you on your smartphone? There is no cellular, capacity. Why aren't you on email? India and email, forget it, yeah. So then, what should I do? Just browse at the bookstore. Browse in the bookstore. And the first thing it will say, Vedanta for dummies. Do it yourself Vedanta. Vedanta according to Swami Vivekananda. Actually, a word not should be there. Because people think that's what he said. We don't know what he said. Vedanta, for the busy one. That one attracts because I'm busy. Yeah. Vedanta in 5 easy sentences. 4 Mahavakyas, and the 5th is the interpretation of this fellow's interpretation of the Mahavakyas. So these are all actual titles that I have looked at. Yeah. And then, so this is all the thing is. So this is the whole, this airport culture. So this is how, the knowledge is just very skin deep. If you just study the first portion of the Veda, and even if you read the words, these airport books, if you buy and read, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Yeah. The flight comes, flight goes, you're not on it. That's all. You haven't moved. You are still in the same place. Yeah, nothing happens. And then you have that fir kya mentality, tatak kim, so what, I have studied Taittiriya Upanishad, nothing happened, so what, these Upanishads don't do anything, don't waste your time, go have some ice cream. That's the whole thing, forget the screaming I, go have some ice cream, down it with some ice cream, that's all it is. So therefore, this Vidya, which is called Apara, even though it includes the words of the Upanishad, it is tenable, this distinction is tenable, Adi Shankara says, because this is just below, even if you know the meanings of the words, and if they don't do anything for you because you haven't internalized or assimilated the meanings properly without additional initiative, they are of no use. That's why this Prithak Karanam is not anarthakya, is not anartha. Prithak Karanasya anarthakyam nasyat, Adi Shankara says. It is not there. Why? The distinction is valid and the distinction is tenable because you need a different kind of initiative. And what is that initiative is given in that subtext here. And what is that subtext? Yeah, Guru Abhigamana Adi Lakshanam Vairagyam Cha. Yeah. So the other initiative is characterized by, Guru Adhigamana Vairagyadi Lakshanatvam Asti, and that other initiative is characterized by Guru Abhigamanam, approaching the teacher. Who approaches? Teacher approaches the student? No. In every Upanishad, everybody knows the story. But still they ask, when is the Guru going to choose me? I don't know why. Some kind of a romanticism, spiritual romanticism. So you have a problem. Guru doesn't have a problem. Correct? Who has the problem? I have the problem that I am subject to sorrow, grief, fear, etc. Panic. And so who has to decide to resolve it? Guru cannot say, I am going to resolve your problem unless and until you approach the Guru with the problem. Because from the drishti, from where the Guru sits, what is there? There is no problem. Everything is wonderful. So you have to say to the Guru, but no, it is not wonderful. Please help. Correct? So this Guru Abhigamanam itself, Abhigamana means approach. Proper approach. Not like, yo, how are you doing? Let's have some Vedanta over tea. That's not the correct approach. A respectful approach, a reverential approach, And as we have seen in the previous classes, that is what is a reverential attitude with regard to the knowledge. It transfers over to the giver of the knowledge, because the giver of the knowledge is the one who makes the apara into para. That is why it cannot be toyed with here. That which makes apara into para is the giver of the knowledge. So the knowledge itself, that which is the finite words, the heap of words, are made into that limitless you, through whose handling, through whose deployment is called the Mahavakya Upadesha Karta, who is the Guru. And this Guru alone has the way of deploying this. And this manner of deployment is called pramana, the handling of the pramana, the handling of the means of knowledge. And how did this Guru learn? The Guru was a Shishya to another Guru. Shishya means student. And the student then became the Guru, and that Guru was a student to his Guru, and that Guru was a student to her Guru, that Guru was a student to his her Guru, going to his her Dakshinamurti right from the beginning, who is half him, half her. That's why. Yeah. And so this from, Sadashiva Samarambha, that which started, which had an auspicious beginning, that knowledge, which had an auspicious beginning from Bhagama, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, for which this Adi Shankara, who we are studying, is the greatest link, a link that stopped me from sinking. This is the link, because so many things were destroyed, and this was all pre-writing, so we don't know what was there in the oral tradition. And then what? Asmadacharya Paryanta. And so this Vandana, this salutation of mine, starts with Adi Shankara and ends with my own teacher. And what do? Vande Guru Paramparam. I validate and I ratify through my namaskar the entire Guru lineage. Yeah, because when you say Namaha, that means I validate it. Oh, but it's not seeking validation. It's not like a parking sticker that is seeking your validation. Why do you validate it? Because that's the only way you can validate yourself. Because you are part of that lineage. And when you see yourself at the end of this lineage, then something happens, there is a connection. Yeah. And then the Vidya flows. But if you just put a tourniquet between you and the lineage, then there is no flow. Everything clots. The knowledge clots up. There is no flow. So therefore that Moola is traced. Everything is traced from Bhagavan up to me, and the whole lineage is venerable. I venerate this entire lineage, at the end of which I am. So I venerate the truth of myself. And so Guru Adhikama Lakshana, 1, 2 Lakshanas are there which distinguish this Vidya from that Vidya. The first Lakshana is what? That just by reading the words nothing happens. An extra effort or an extra initiative is needed. And the first thing is to approach the one who teaches this knowledge, properly, not just something apne aap. That's why this apne aap is not, validated in our tradition. Yeah. Asampradayavit murkhavad upekshaniyaha. Adi Shankara says that the one who does not have a lineage, does not come from a sound lineage, please ignore them and keep them at a distance. At least as long as a pole, barge pole. Keep them at a distance. Barge pole is a long pole. That is what you use to tee off from the shore. Yeah, it's a long pole. And so keep them at a distance, because don't entertain them. Don't even try to, get into an argument with them, because they are not worth that. Leave them alone. Only the Sampradaya Vit, not the Sampradaya Krit, we are not interested in. The one the maker of a lineage, we are not interested in. There are many people who only want to make lineages and say, I am the author of such and such a lineage. They may be sound, may not be sound, we don't know. But the knower, Sampradaya Vit, The knower of the lineage, the one who takes pride in belonging and coming from that exalted lineage that started with Bhagavan, that started with God, with Ishvara. Why do you want to make your own lineage? It's ridiculous. So this is what is implied by this Guru Abhigamana. So it's not just I approach any teacher. You approach a teacher who is able to not distort the meanings of the Upanishad, who doesn't say Tattvamasi into Atattvamasi, who doesn't say Upadekshanti te Ajnanam. There is all these problems, with the elisions and the sandhis, with the conjunct, vowels, and when the vowels join and how to split them if you don't know. Tattvamasi becomes Atattvamasi. You are not the cause of the universe. That I already knew. You should have let me live in my ramshackle house, patching things up every day, literally and figuratively, with all the people therein. And why did you take me out here? So the Guru is not that one who just distorts the knowledge. The Guru is the one who gives the knowledge properly. And this proper assimilation, proper understanding, proper everything, this is what is called Paravidya. So the first Lakshana of Paravidya is what? It is the distinction is correct, because the second knowledge, Paravidya, is not gained just by reading and understanding. You need an extra effort, and that is called Guru Abhigamanam. Okay? And then can anyone approach the Guru? Yes, of course the Guru is there, approachable for everyone. Will everyone, let me put the question slightly differently, will everyone who approaches the Guru gain the knowledge? No. Why? Preparedness is not there, and the preparedness is given by the second word, Vairagyadi. Two things very beautifully. This is Adi Shankara at the best. Vairagyadi Lakshanam. First is Guru Abhigamana, is the first Lakshana for which knowledge to stand out separately from the rest. And then what? The second Lakshana is that it's not just any person going to the Guru, but the prepared mind going to the Guru. And the preparation here is described by Vairagya. He takes, of course, the main thing. And I'll talk a little more about how that is the main thing. And then he also puts a small word Adi, etc. Vairagya is that at the top of which list? So if you make a list, Vairagya, number 1, what will come? Number 2, what will be there? Viveka, then? Number 3, Shama. Number 4, Dhamma. Number 5, Uparati. Number 6, Titiksha. Number 7, yes, Samadhanam. Number 8, Shraddha. Number 9, Mumukshutvam. So this is the big list, correct? By putting the one thing from the list, all other things are to be inferred. Very nice way of saying, etc. So he brings in everything, but then he mentions only Vairagya for 2 reasons. Why? Because he could have mentioned Shraddha, he could have said Titikshadi, he could have said, Uparatyadi, Uparatiyadi, but he doesn't say Vairagyadi Lakshana. Why? 2 reasons. One is because really of all the things, that which makes a difference to gaining this knowledge is dispassion. Somehow being able to put oneself repeatedly and cultivate within oneself an attitude of benign neutrality. This is Vairagya. Dispassion. And what is this benign neutrality? It's an objectivity. Meaning that my subjective desires, pressures created by those desires, no matter whether those are desires for objects or desires for more subtle things, like power, etc. Power is not an object, but it becomes the objective of the desire. So it's not a graspable object, it's a much more subtle desire. for power, for love, etc. Abandonment, to overcome insecurity, to get some love from somebody else, parents, etc. These kinds of situations, they color the world view and or the world of people, things, and situation. And that coloration, when I'm able to suspend, first consciously, and then get to the place of not letting that coloration affect my dealings with the world, that is the place of neutrality. And I say benign neutrality because it's not a neutrality which is jigupsa. Jigupsa means, I'm repulsed by this universe, just like the face I made. I'm so disgusted by this, I'm not going to have anything to do with this universe. That is called jihasa vairagya, a vairagya that is born of despair. And out of despair, because the fox jumped and jumped and jumped at what? Grapes. And then it had a gripe about the grapes. It could not reach the grapes. And therefore it walked away in vairagya, concluding that the grapes are sour. Correct? Because this is called jihasa vairagya. I couldn't get it, therefore it is not worth pursuing. I can't get it, therefore it's not worth pursuing. Or I'm sick of trying for it, I'm dejected, rejected, and subjected to all kinds of difficulties, and therefore I'm going to stop pursuing this. Yes, I have vairagya. And then what happens? That vairagya resets itself every meal time. Yeah. It goes back to the reset button, because the hunger pushes the reset button. Because when the food comes, oh, yes, the person has a square meal. Why do I call it square meal? Back to square one. And then again the tears and the fears start. Oh, what is the use of pursuing this? I'll never get it anyway. What is the use of pursuing that? That also I will never get. What is the use of doing this? That also will not happen. What is the use of doing this? That also will not happen. This is not vairagya. This is a desperate jiva's, clarion call. Because it's calling out to other jivas. Either help me or join me. Yeah. I'll grab onto you. If you're strong enough, you will help me. And, at least for a little while you'll carry me before you yourself drop me. Otherwise, you just join me. Let us have a sad serenade band. Let us open a band. This is the latest thing. Every teenager I ask, what are you doing? I have started a band. Yes. The parents are in a bind, especially Indian parents. Yeah, but the teenager is in a band. And each one thinks that they can become more famous than the current. They can hit the latest song out of the charts and be the next hit. Of course, they will also be hit, or they will have to take a hit. They don't know, because being a hit comes with a lot of other hitting on the sides going on. And so therefore, join the bandwagon of the desperado jiva. Because any sad person you ask, they have vairagya. But it's a specific vairagya born of despair, helplessness and hopelessness. That's not the vairagya we have to entertain. Yeah. Because the person of knowledge can do anything and will not shy from doing whatever is needed to be done. Here we are talking of a vairagya that's a desperate vairagya. Because nothing else has worked in the beginning. And so that layers of hopelessness. Like the cake which has many layers, The more the layers, the more expensive it is. So this is an expensive vairagya born of desperation. Because you have a little effort, but then it is caked and layered with a lot of, this frosting. And just as it sounds, it's a very frosty affair. And it's a, what is that? It is a karma phala of previous lives and perhaps our childhood. And sometimes the desperation is inherited. Yeah. And so as soon as this jiva starts to feel a little happy about something, then immediately the feeling goes, oh, but the parents are sick and sad, so I should immediately get a temperature and then go into the doldrums. It is all carried like this. That is why we have this ancestor invocation. Those ancestors that have gone previously, we seek their blessings for this knowledge, so that they don't have to any longer carry this desperation. Because if I release it within me, 7 up, 7 down, all the generations release this desperation. So in certain families, they carry on the desperation. In certain other families, there are this fear. If you're not anxious about someone, you don't love them. I don't know how this is. Yeah, and if there's no anxiety, there is no love. You mean you didn't worry about me? I was missing for 5 hours. Yeah, but you kept texting every 5 minutes. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. You still didn't miss me. You are not worried about me. No, I wasn't. Oh, that means you don't love me. If you are not sad whenever I appear, if you don't cry one bucketful, that means you don't love me. These certain families, I have seen this. And then certain families, they carry conflict. That, and then as soon as the siblings see each other, they have to throw something at each other literally. And they have to fight, and they have to wrestle each other to the ground, either physically or, mentally. The sparring. That is a sign of love. Really, I don't know how they get this. And then in certain other families, you have to be, the more sarcastic you are, the more you love the person. And so you don't tell anybody, oh, you look so healthy and wonderful. You point out to that one thing which is not healthy and not wonderful. Oh, this is how you walk around with your shoelace untied. This is what they'll say. So this is all carried in families, and along with the bonds, this bondage is also inherited and given to the recipients in the form of a prized and choice legacy. Yeah. And that legacy includes the sad hopelessness. Yeah. This conflict-ridden hopelessness. Hopelessness is a very common legacy. So along with the trusts and bonds, this bondage is inherited. The bondage of hopelessness, which if you don't interrogate properly, it passes off as vairagya. Oh, I have this knowledge. What knowledge? You listen to half a sentence of one Upanishad. No, but that's what it says. I need to have vairagya, and I have so much vairagya that I don't want to do anything, that I just don't want to come out of the covers. This is dangerous. This is not the kind of vairagya Adi Shankara is talking about. That's why I say benign neutrality. A neutrality that is benign. So then if this is not the kind of vairagya, what is the kind of vairagya that he is talking about? Let us see that after a short break. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. 15 minutes, just stretch.